Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flix Show. My name is Chris Wong. This is episode 386 of the Ping Pong Flix Show. We've got a pretty big update from the Snyder Cut fandom, and this is actually coming from Comic Book Debate. They were able to have an interview with Fabian Wagner, the cinematographer, the first cinematographer for Justice League, the one that worked with Zack Snyder for the most part. And he had a lot of things to say, including actually his reaction when he watched the theatrical cut of Justice League. He said he cried, and not in a good way, but like in a bad way, because he revealed that a lot of it, most of it, was not his work. And so it gets you really thinking about how much, and we already know how much, but like sometimes you just can't fathom how much significantly different the Justice League theatrical cut is to the Snyder Cut. He goes on to other details about run times and kind of trying not to allude too much into the fact, but he does kind of reveal that the longer runtime is probably what Zack Snyder wanted, which we already know. But you could really see that he's really struggling with the NDA here. Although he does, in fact, really does support release the Snyder Cut movement, he can't really say too much. He does reveal things that we already know, like Darkseid being on set, a green screen motion captured. He does reveal that he doesn't think that's Ray Porter under the suit as well. So it could be that even some of the scenes that Ray Porter was involved in motion capture, probably Fabian Wagner was not there to shoot, possibly. But he also said something about the black suit. Now, he didn't want to he wouldn't want to go any further, even though the Ferrucci brothers tried to pry a little bit or tried to go around the fact. But it almost seems like now that Henry Cavill did wear the black suit. He did shoot scenes with Henry Cavill in the black suit. There's so much secrecy around that I have come to believe that because of how Fabian Wagner reacted and the way he kind of just danced around the subject, and that he cannot say anymore, that it's quite possible that Superman was in the black suit for a portion of the movie, and we don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know what part, but it could very much well be maybe in when he's rejuvenated or something like that. I don't know how much of that was him that's supposed to be in the black suit. Maybe they changed the colors to the red and blue. Who knows at this point? But it does appear like Fabian Wagner, of course, because he helped with Zach shoot the film, that there may be some scenes that have Henry Cavill in the black suit, which makes you wonder a lot more what plot points, what story is actually in the 214-minute cut of Justice League. There is so much going on in that movie that we have not even remotely taken a peek at yet, right? And also the third act. It's very much, we're very much aware of that. The third act is possibly completely different from what we see in the theatrical cut. Possibly even quite longer. A lot of battles. It's kind of interesting that he kind of alluded about Darkseid in the third act as well, although Zack Snyder did confirm that he was, Darkseid didn't fight them, but he was just appearing out inside the boom tube. But there could have been a lot more done with Superman himself. And, the Ferrucci brothers tried to pry a little bit into Superman, of course. For Fabian Wagner couldn't really give in to those requests in order to kind of shed a little bit more light into Superman appearing or in what fashion and things like that. But it does feel like, and just hearing Fabian Wagner's words, that a lot of his stuff got really chopped up and deleted, and which is so sad because we're talking about Zack Snyder and crew. Well, Fabian Wagner is part of that crew. That his creative sensibilities, his creative artistic nature, his work is not being presented the way he wants it to, right? This is his giant opportunity to be on a giant film like Justice League, and they chopped it up. Not only did they chop up Zack's work, they chopped up Fabian Wagner's work as well. And it does show, he does reveal a couple things like how Zack Snyder wanted to put a little bit more color into this that is different, a little bit more color than what he's previously worked on in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. And maybe that's the progression that you see as it gets more into the color. In Man of Steel, it was kind of more subdued, and then we do notice that in Batman v Superman, they've added a lot more color with Larry Fong adding a little bit more color into it, and then finally Fabian Wagner putting a lot more color into it. So it's kind of like a progression of you could almost say like hope, getting closer to hope in how that color skew would have gone. Of course, they really brightened it out of proportion and really made Michael Wilkinson's costume really like not. The potential of Michael Wilkinson's costume was not lit greatly, not lit good at all during the Joss Whedon shoots, and totally dismantling what Fabian Wagner was able to do with those colors, in which you actually do see deleted scenes of Henry Cavill in the Superman suit talking to Alfred. So that a lot of that was taken away itself, and you can really feel the hurt in Fabian Wagner and how much it would have done. It would have been so much better seeing his work. He also kind of alluded to the VFX not being done at that time, although he was quite surprised and he didn't know that Zack Snyder had said it's done. So there's still some gray area there on what version he saw, and up to the point to what Zack is talking about, or what to the point that Grace Randolph saw, or Mark Hughes have talked about. So there's a lot of gray area in the timeline of which person saw which cut and which part, and which is the most definitive. What does Zack have altogether? But that's not the conversation we have here. The interesting thing, other interesting thing, because there's so many interesting things on his podcast, and please listen to it. You've got to check it out. But the part that got me quite thinking is to go back and look at the Justice League trailers, because Fabian Wagner did say they did color grading. Him and Zack Snyder edited together the first 3 Justice League trailers, and so now we kind of thought maybe it was just 2 Justice League trailers. I could be wrong, but the third Justice League trailer, that is something to look forward to, that because during that timeline, if it's the third Justice League trailer, that means that's probably the most work done to how he wanted to shown before an actual release. So that color grading, how that scenes and looks like, and the looking like that is probably very prominent in that third Justice League trailer. So if you got a chance, go ahead and check that out, because that would be quite interesting to see what transpired in there, because I believe Steppenwolf was also in that as well. So it makes you wonder, believe which part, which is the one with Darkseid and which is the one with Steppenwolf, or because I think one of the scenes was the axe being thrown down, and I think that was already Steppenwolf in that third Justice League trailer. I could be wrong, but and that's why I gotta go check it out and take a look at it. But you could start seeing that possibly what they were forced Zack Snyder to do with all these different edits, and maybe even after he left, they continued editing that version, that indeed there was another cut that is probably the most complete. Zack Snyder, yes, but not really his approved, like, meaning they could have made him turn that scene to have Steppenwolf. And he begrudgingly did that. He begrudgingly made those scenes with Steppenwolf involved in it, and towards a cut that possibly what Mark Hughes and everybody's talking about. It's a Snyder cut, but it's not the Snyder cut, which contains Darkseid. So that is a interesting discussion in itself. I'm not implying that I know anything about which cut has dark side, which is approved cut and stuff like that. But to me, it does feel like Zack Snyder is his approved cut, of course, has dark side in the history lesson. But maybe he could have possibly worked on a cut towards, because of the studio, he had to work on a cut that had Steppenwolf, and he was involved in that as well. So the cuts that are finished, who knows at this point? I just wish to see something that is Snyder Cut, and hopefully that is the Snyder Cut, and more than a Snyder Cut. But a Snyder Cut is still better than the Justice League. You know what I'm saying? I really believe that. So, but in order to get that across, I mean, it needs to have something to happen. And hopefully today's news that Ann Sarnoff formally takes the reins of Warner Brothers as CEO could actually turn out to be something great. Whether this whole HBO Max thing, or it goes to the theaters, or Blu-ray, the Snyder Cut, who knows at this point. And I'm really hopeful. I'm actually very much thinking it's going to happen. But Ann Sarnoff is going to go through the process of being the CEO, and is going to have a town hall meeting for studio employees on September 4th. This is her full memo. Dear colleagues, I've been looking forward to saying that for 2 months. Today is my first day at Warner Brothers, and I wanted to let you know how proud I am to be joining the company and all of you. Warner Brothers has been gold standard in entertainment for almost 100 years, and with the efforts of our global team, I believe we can continue that streak for another 100. I've had the chance to meet with the senior management team, and I'm excited to help build on the company's legacy of creativity and innovation. This is an exciting and challenging time in the entertainment industry, and we need to keep looking at new business models, new competitors, new content platforms and formats, and finding new opportunities. With our talent, expertise, and unmatched IP, we're in a great position to capitalize on them. I'd like to acknowledge that despite the many changes that have occurred across the industry and here at the company, your focus and commitment to excellence have kept us on track to realize our ambitious goals. I cannot thank you enough for your ongoing contributions to Warner Brothers' success. Every interaction I've had has confirmed my belief that a company's people make the culture, and Warner Brothers' culture of respect, integrity, creativity, and inclusion is a direct result of the passion in each of you. And hopefully with that memo, it spells that they are wanting to rectify their mistakes, or her former people before her, their mistakes, and to actually release the Snyder Cut somehow. And the fans and everybody respond to the Variety article, respond to Warner Brothers' own tweet about Ann Sarnoff with release the Snyder Cut, hopefully to get her attention, and hopefully it does. And I think it does. I think it will. But at the same motion, I think release the Snyder Cut is going to start the letter campaign pretty soon, which I'll probably be involved in as well, with the Snyder Cut dollars, and have that sent over to Ann Sarnoff, since she is officially in office. I think the time is now to gain her attention, if she's not already got that attention, but keep on creating that noise, like Fabian Wagner is saying. We're doing a fantastic job, and hopefully the Snyder Cut release comes to fruition about that. But for people who are interested in the other DC news, there's a couple things that have come up about that. One, the Joker is officially rated R, with a little note there that it's a strong, bloody violence, disturbing behavior, language, and brief sexual images. So it is officially rated R. Like we did already know it was going to be rated R. They've been talking about it for a long time. But at least if you want confirmation, an official statement, this is it. Joaquin Phoenix's Todd Phillips' Joker movie is officially rated R for the people who are interested. There's a long article on the total film, and it had all those pictures that I talk about. So if you want to go check that out, I'm gonna link that tweet with all those scanned images from that magazine. It goes into great detail about Joaquin Phoenix and how much of a crazy actor he is. He gets so infused with Joker that sometimes he can't sleep, and that's the type of actor he is. He totally transforms himself to that character. So you can probably look at that and kind of praise him for going into those such depths. But you can also see from that article how Todd Phillips is really trying to make his own movie, really trying to make Joker his own character, in exploring Joker using elements of the comic book realm, but not fully going there. So I think it's a cool article about Joker, really hyping up the Joker to being something totally different from what you've seen in comic book films. And if that's your kind of a cup of tea, then go ahead. It's time to check that out when it releases later this year. Now, other movies that are coming down the pipeline includes Birds of Prey. Now, I told you there was going to be a Birds of Prey, new look at Birds of Prey. Well, it didn't quite happen like that. I mean, they just showed screenshots from the teaser. So, a little disappointed about the Birds of Prey new look, not as disappointed as MCU Spider fans. But, it's still disappointing as a DC fan to not seeing a little bit more of Birds of Prey on this. But there's a short article that's in there as well. Not too much revealing things that we've already known. But Christina Hodson, the writer, actually does talk a little bit about this Birds of Prey being Harley Quinn's point of view, or at least a story being told by Harley Quinn. So I think that's why there's going to have those little bit comedic elements, tongue-in-cheek elements, because she is telling the story. It's probably going to be a skewed version of the story, possibly, I'm just thinking, and that's why we have the emancipation of one Harley Quinn, because this is her telling the story. Possibly, maybe it starts off with her in prison or something, retelling the story of what happened to her and the Birds of Prey. And so that's why some of the the elements of the story that a certain YouTuber named Grace Ranoff revealed and people didn't like it could make sense. That silliness factor could be a skewed reality through the eyes of Harley Quinn. And so that gets me thinking that it's going to be something different and something possibly special, depending on how you look at it. But the action scenes is going to be great. Apparently, it's going to be a lot of explosive sets and stuff like that. So that could be quite, honestly, that could be quite fantastic as well. And something more of a blockbuster nature that I kind of like. And of course, because John Wick, the second unit director is the guy who made John Wick. So it's going to be fantastic, the action scenes as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. But still kind of wondering how much. And for people who are like hoping for that direct sequel to Suicide Squad, apparently she's not going to allude anything. Yes, Margot Robbie returns as Harley Quinn and possibly seeing a little bit of Joker, but it's not going to have any connection to David Ayer's Suicide Squad, besides the point that the actress remains the same for that character. So oh well. But if you're looking for a Suicide Squad sequel, if we could possibly see that in the form of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Nothing much yet on, but James Gunn did reveal in an Instagram or a tweet that, or I think it's Instagram, that cast announcement should be pretty soon, he thinks, meaning that he's got a whole cast together. They're going to have possibly an official announcement. Maybe they're all going to be in costume or something. Something like David Ayer's Suicide Squad, where they had that nice big picture of all the Suicide Squad members. That could be pretty exciting as well. That'd be kind of cool to see and just get an idea of who's coming. And one of those people that was just recently came on board was comedian Flula Borg from Germany, right? He's that comedian from Germany. He's on that Conan O'Brien special where he takes him to Germany. Really funny guy. He's also in Got Pitch Perfect 2, so you'll see him in that if you want to see. So a comedian in Suicide Squad. He joins the other franchise newcomers: Idris Elba, John Cena, David Dastmalchian, along with the the usual crew of Margot Robbie, Viola Davis, Jai Courtney, and Joel Kinnaman. So I am kind of wondering what role is he in this movie. Is like I don't think he's King Shark. I don't. That'd be kind of interesting if I don't know. He could have put a comedic spin to King Shark, or he could just be a side character, a character that just gets killed off or something. But I mean, it's quite a different array of actors and actresses here, very diverse in their nature. So I mean, we just gotta see what happens in this movie, what kind of tone this movie is gonna be. But yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of Flula Borg, he is in James Gunn's Suicide Squad, and they call it sequel in this Hollywood Reporter. So there's that. But in any case, it looks like the DCEU is still continuing to go on. I wouldn't call it like a real slate, because there's not that type of connectivity. You feel like they're just throwing things out there. But, we'll have to wait and see what happens when Sarnoff comes on board, when they actually have a new head, and if they have any outlook of how they want to approach the rest of the universe. But at least we know there are DC movies coming up. We got Joker, we got Birds of Prey, we got Wonder Woman 1984, we got the Suicide Squad, and apparently to Ezra Miller, The Flash is absolutely confirmed. So there is that. All right, guys. Well, that is it for tonight. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.